Your body is not just made of flesh, blood, and bone, it is a living electrical system operating with terrifying precision every second of your existence. Right now, signals are racing through your nervous system faster than conscious thought, forcing your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, and your brain to create the illusion that you are simply alive instead of recognizing the unbelievable physics keeping you conscious. The frightening part is that most people never think about it. They wake up, stare at screens, chase distractions, drain their energy, and move through life completely disconnected from the invisible force powering every thought they have. If the electrical activity inside your brain stopped for only a few seconds, your memories, your personality, your ambitions, your fears, and everything you call you would vanish instantly. That is how fragile human awareness really is. Modern people trust batteries more than biology. They panic when a phone reaches 1% power but ignore the exhaustion, overstimulation, stress, poor sleep, and constant mental noise slowly corrupting the electrical system inside their own bodies. Then they wonder why they feel numb, anxious, unfocused, and emotionally empty. The body is sending signals constantly, but most people are too distracted to listen. Your heart generates measurable electrical fields. Your brain fires billions of electrical impulses every moment. Your muscles only move because electrical commands tell them to. You are not separate from physics. You are a biological expression of it. That realization should change the way you see yourself. Because once you understand that your entire existence depends on delicate electrical order, excuses begin to sound pathetic. Every habit matters, every thought matters, every hour of sleep matters. The system keeping you alive is either being strengthened or destroyed by the choices you repeat daily, and most people are destroying themselves without even realizing it. The human brain is one of the most electrically active structures ever discovered, yet most people move through life without understanding the force operating inside their own heads. Every second, billions of neurons exchange electrical signals through microscopic connections, forming the foundation of thought, memory, emotion, and awareness itself. What people call intelligence, creativity, fear, confidence, or ambition is deeply connected to patterns of electrical activity moving through neural circuits with astonishing speed. Your mind is not floating outside the laws of physics, it is built from them. The electrical pulses firing through your brain right now are shaping the way you perceive reality moment by moment. This is why mental exhaustion is not imaginary. When the brain is overloaded with constant stimulation, the nervous system begins to lose efficiency. Endless notifications, rapid entertainment, emotional stress, and information overload force the brain into a state it was never biologically designed to handle continuously. Attention becomes fragmented because the electrical system is constantly interrupted. Deep focus becomes difficult because the mind adapts to short bursts of stimulation instead of sustained concentration. Over time, people become mentally restless without understanding that their own habits are rewiring the circuitry responsible for focus and emotional stability. The terrifying part is that the brain learns through repetition whether the pattern is useful or destructive. Every repeated thought strengthens certain neural pathways while weakening others. Fear repeated long enough becomes automatic. Negativity repeated long enough becomes identity. Distraction repeated long enough becomes dependency. The nervous system always adapts to what it experiences most often. That means your daily habits are physically shaping the structure of your brain through electrical reinforcement. Most people never consciously train their attention. They allow algorithms, stress, and impulse to dictate what dominates their minds. Then they wonder why clarity disappears and motivation fades. But the brain rewards whatever patterns are repeated consistently. Discipline can become wired. Focus can become natural. Mental resilience can become stronger over time. The electrical system inside your mind is constantly evolving, and every thought, habit, and action is teaching it what kind of person you are slowly becoming. Your heart is not simply a biological pump forcing blood through veins and arteries. It is an electrical engine operating with astonishing precision every second of your life. Before each heartbeat occurs, specialized cells inside the heart generate tiny electrical impulses that spread through cardiac tissue in perfect synchronization, commanding the muscles to contract with exact timing. That rhythm begins before birth and continues day and night without rest, producing a continuous flow of energy that keeps every organ alive. The terrifying truth is that your existence depends on this invisible electrical coordination remaining stable moment after moment. The instant that rhythm fails, everything you call life begins collapsing immediately. What makes this even more extraordinary is that the electrical activity of the heart is powerful enough to be measured outside the body. Machines can detect and record the patterns created by your heart because the human body produces real electromagnetic fields. Your emotions, stress levels, and physical state influence those patterns constantly. Fear changes the rhythm. Anxiety disrupts stability. Chronic stress overloads the nervous system until the body begins functioning in survival mode instead of balance. Modern life traps millions of people in that condition every day without them understanding the physical damage taking place beneath the surface. The body was never designed for nonstop pressure, endless stimulation, and constant mental noise. Yet people normalize exhaustion, emotional instability, and nervous tension as if living in a permanent state of overload is somehow healthy. The heart keeps adapting to whatever conditions it is forced to survive under, but no system can tolerate abuse forever. Poor sleep, chronic stress, emotional suppression, and overstimulation slowly place strain on the electrical balance responsible for maintaining life itself. The frightening realization is that every heartbeat is proof of how dependent human beings are on invisible order. You are alive because electrical precision is being maintained inside your chest every second without conscious effort. Most people never think about it until something goes wrong. But once you understand that your heart is an electrical system sustaining your entire existence, life stops feeling ordinary. Every beat becomes a reminder that the line between life and silence is thinner than most people dare to imagine. Muscles do not move because of willpower alone. They move because electricity commands them to act. Every physical motion the human body performs begins as an electrical signal generated in the brain, transmitted through the nervous system and delivered precisely to muscle fibers that respond instantly to that command. Without that electrical impulse, even the strongest body becomes completely motionless. This means every step, every breath, every gesture, and every expression is fundamentally an electrical event translated into physical action. Movement itself is not purely physical. It is electrical intention converted into biological execution. Most people misunderstand strength as something purely muscular. But real physical capability depends heavily on the efficiency of the nervous system. The body only performs as well as the electrical signals it receives and processes. When the nervous system is sharp, coordinated, and efficient, movement becomes powerful, precise, and controlled. When it is overloaded, fatigued, or poorly regulated, performance declines regardless of physical size or appearance. This is why recovery, sleep, and mental clarity are not optional for high performance. They are essential conditions for maintaining electrical efficiency inside the body. The modern lifestyle silently destroys this system in most people. Constant stress keeps the nervous system activated without rest. Poor sleep disrupts electrical recovery processes that normally reset and stabilize neural communication. Mental overload fragments attention and weakens the clarity of signals traveling from brain to muscle. Over time, the body begins to feel sluggish, uncoordinated, and weak, not because it has lost its physical structure, but because the electrical system controlling it has become inefficient. The harsh reality is that energy is not something randomly experienced. It is produced through biological processes that depend on stability and recovery. When the nervous system is balanced, the body responds with strength, speed, and precision. When it is disrupted, even simple actions feel heavy and exhausting. Most people blame laziness or lack of motivation, but the deeper truth is that their electrical system is overloaded and mismanaged. The body is always obeying the quality of signals it receives, and those signals determine everything from physical performance to daily energy levels. Every thought that repeats inside the human mind is not just an abstract idea. It is an electrical event that physically reshapes the brain over time. Neurons fire in patterns, and when those patterns are repeated consistently, the connections between them strengthen. This process is not symbolic, it is structural. The brain literally rewires itself based on what is practiced most often. That means every dominant thought is slowly becoming part of physical neural architecture, shaping how future thoughts are formed, how decisions are made, and how reality is interpreted. This creates a disturbing truth that most people never confront. Identity is not fixed. It is being continuously written by repetition. Thoughts of fear, doubt, comparison, and distraction do not remain temporary mental states. When repeated, they become efficient neural pathways. The brain learns them, automates them, and eventually defaults to them without conscious effort. What begins as occasional thinking gradually becomes instinct. This is how mental patterns turn into personality over time. At the same time, this same mechanism is responsible for growth. Focus, discipline, confidence, and emotional stability are also learned through repetition. The brain does not judge whether a pattern is helpful or harmful. It only strengthens what is frequently used. This means the direction of a person's mental development is not determined by intelligence or potential, but by repetition and attention. The electrical system inside the brain adapts to whatever is reinforced most consistently, regardless of intention. The problem is that most people never intentionally choose what they repeat. Their environment, habits, and distractions choose for them. Endless stimulation, constant comparison, and reactive thinking slowly carve neural pathways that lead to instability and weakness. Over time, the mind begins to feel trapped inside patterns it never consciously selected. The deeper realization is that every repeated thought is an instruction to the brain. It is telling the nervous system what kind of person to become. And because the brain obeys repetition without question, the future self is already being constructed through the electrical activity happening right now in the present moment. Human beings are often taught to think of physics as something external, distant, and unrelated to daily life. Equations on paper, experiments in laboratories, and theories about forces in space create the illusion that physical laws exist far away from personal experience. But in reality, every moment of human existence is governed by physics operating at a biological level. The body is not separate from the universe's rules. It is a direct manifestation of them, constantly obeying electrical, chemical, and mechanical principles without exception. Consciousness itself is embedded within these physical interactions. Electricity is not something the human body occasionally uses, it is something the body depends on continuously. Neurons transmit information through electrical impulses, muscles respond to electrical signals, and the heart maintains rhythm through coordinated electrical activity. Even perception is electrical in nature, as sensory organs convert external stimuli into signals the brain can interpret. Vision, hearing, touch, and thought are all dependent on the conversion of physical input into electrical communication. Without this process, there is no experience of reality at all. Despite this, most people live as if their biology is separate from physics. They ignore the conditions required for stable electrical functioning. Sleep is neglected, despite being essential for neural restoration. Stress is normalized despite directly disrupting electrical balance in the nervous system. Attention is fragmented through constant stimulation, even though focus requires stable and uninterrupted neural activity. Over time, these behaviors degrade the efficiency of the system, leading to fatigue, confusion, and emotional instability. The most important realization is that the body does not respond to intention alone, it responds to conditions. When conditions support balance, the electrical system performs with clarity and precision. When conditions are chaotic, the system becomes unstable, regardless of desire or motivation. Physics does not negotiate. It reacts consistently to input. This means every daily habit is not just a personal choice, it is a physical interaction with the nervous system. Every action either supports or disrupts the electrical stability that defines mental clarity, emotional control, and physical energy. Once this is understood, life stops being viewed as random experience and becomes a continuous expression of physical law operating through biology. Modern life is not neutral. It is actively shaping the human nervous system in ways most people never consciously recognize. The environment surrounding daily life is filled with constant signals competing for attention. Notifications, media, entertainment, and digital stimulation continuously interrupt natural thought patterns and fragment focus into shorter and weaker cycles. The brain, which is fundamentally an electrical system designed for rhythm and stability, is forced into constant reactivity. Instead of sustained attention, it becomes trained for rapid switching. Instead of deep processing, it becomes dependent on instant stimulation. This continuous interruption has a physical effect on neural circuitry. Attention is not just a mental choice, it is a measurable electrical state. When attention is repeatedly broken, the brain adapts by shortening its focus cycles. Over time, this reduces the ability to engage in deep thinking, problem solving, or long-term concentration. What feels like distraction is actually the nervous system adjusting itself to an environment that never allows electrical stability. The mind begins to expect interruption, even in silence. At the same time, modern stimulation systems are designed to trigger reward pathways in the brain. Quick bursts of novelty and emotional stimulation activate dopamine-driven circuits that reinforce repeated engagement. This creates a cycle where the nervous system becomes conditioned to seek constant input. Silence begins to feel uncomfortable because it no longer matches the brain's adapted electrical patterns. As a result, many individuals lose the ability to remain still without external input. The deeper issue is that this process is gradual and unnoticed. There is no single moment where change is obvious. Instead, it accumulates over time through repeated exposure. Small fragments of attention loss become long-term patterns of instability. Emotional regulation weakens. Mental clarity decreases. Energy feels inconsistent. Yet the source is not immediately recognized because it is embedded in everyday behavior. What is happening is not simply distraction, it is electrical conditioning. The nervous system is being trained to operate in a state of constant disruption. Without conscious control, external systems begin to shape internal function. The result is a mind that is always active but rarely stable, always stimulated but rarely focused, and always engaged but rarely in control. Human energy is not an endless resource. It is a continuously generated and continuously consumed output of biological electrical systems that require balance to function properly. Every thought, movement, emotion, and decision draws from the same internal reservoir of neural and metabolic energy. When this system operates efficiently, energy feels stable, clear, and reliable. When it is disrupted, energy becomes inconsistent, unpredictable, and easily depleted. Most people misinterpret this instability as personal weakness, when in reality it is often the result of systemic overload. One of the most significant drains on human energy is internal noise. Overthinking, emotional reactivity, unresolved stress, and constant mental simulation consume vast amounts of neural resources. The brain does not distinguish between real external events and imagined internal scenarios in terms of energy usage. Repeated worry, mental replaying of past events, and anticipation of negative outcomes all activate electrical activity in the brain that consumes energy without producing physical resolution. Over time, this creates a silent exhaustion that builds beneath awareness. External factors compound this internal drain. Poor sleep interrupts neural recovery processes that restore electrical balance in the brain. Irregular routines destabilize biological rhythms that regulate energy production. Chronic stress keeps the nervous system in a heightened state of activation, preventing proper recovery. The result is a system that is constantly working but never fully restoring itself. This creates the illusion of fatigue even when no obvious physical exertion is present. What makes this cycle particularly damaging is that it reinforces itself. Low energy reduces focus. Reduced focus leads to more mistakes and stress. More stress increases internal electrical activity. Increased activity drains more energy. This loop continues silently unless consciously interrupted. Most individuals never recognize this pattern because it feels normal after repetition. The key realization is that energy is not just something experienced subjectively. It is a measurable output of a biological electrical system that responds directly to behavior and environment. When that system is supported through stability, rest, and reduced internal noise, energy naturally increases. When it is continuously disrupted, energy collapses regardless of motivation or intent. The system always reflects the conditions it is placed under, and it never ignores long-term imbalance. True power in human behavior does not come from bursts of emotion or temporary motivation. It comes from control over internal impulses and the ability to direct attention deliberately instead of reacting automatically. The nervous system is constantly generating signals, desires, reactions, and emotional responses. Without regulation, these signals dictate behavior. With regulation, they become manageable inputs that can be directed toward intentional outcomes. The difference between chaos and control is not intelligence or strength. It is the ability to regulate electrical and neurological activity under pressure. Impulse behavior is the default state of an untrained nervous system. Every stimulus creates a reaction, and without conscious interruption, the reaction becomes action. This creates a pattern where behavior is dictated by environment rather than intention. Emotional discomfort leads to avoidance. Temporary desire leads to distraction. Stress leads to reactive decisions. Over time, this reduces stability and creates a life that feels externally controlled. The individual becomes responsive rather than directive. Control, however, is built through repetition of resistance. Each moment where impulse is observed but not immediately followed strengthens the brain's capacity for regulation. This is not about suppression, but about redirection of electrical focus. The neural pathways responsible for self-control become more efficient when they are repeatedly activated. At the same time, impulsive pathways weaken when they are not reinforced. This creates a gradual shift in behavioral structure. Most people misunderstand control as restriction, but in reality, it is stabilization. A controlled system is not a suppressed system. It is an organized one. Energy that is normally scattered across distractions becomes concentrated into deliberate action. Attention becomes sharper, decisions become clearer, emotional reactions become less dominant. Without control, energy is wasted through constant reaction. With control, energy is directed toward purpose. This is why individuals with higher self-regulation appear more composed and effective under pressure. Their nervous system is not producing more energy, it is simply wasting less of it. The electrical system is operating with precision instead of chaos. Ultimately, control is not a personality trait. It is a trained neurological and electrical pattern that determines whether a person is governed by impulses or guided by intention. Right now, the same electrical system that creates thought inside the human brain is active within you. Signals are firing, decisions are forming, attention is shifting, and every moment is quietly shaping the direction of your life. Most people move through this reality without realizing that their internal state is not separate from their external results. What happens inside the nervous system eventually becomes visible in behavior, habits, performance, and outcomes. There is no separation between biology and destiny. There is only a continuous process of electrical activity shaping future consequences. The uncomfortable truth is that nothing changes unless the internal system changes first. External improvement without internal regulation always collapses. Motivation fades, discipline weakens, focus dissolves. But when the nervous system is trained to operate with stability, everything else begins to align more naturally. Attention becomes easier to direct, energy becomes more consistent, decisions become less reactive. The system starts supporting itself instead of working against itself. Every habit repeated today is either stabilizing or destabilizing that system. Every moment of distraction strengthens fragmentation. Every moment of focus strengthens control. Every moment of rest restores electrical balance. Every moment of overload reduces efficiency. Over time, these small interactions accumulate into a complete behavioral structure that defines how life feels and functions. Most individuals never see this clearly because they are too close to the process. They experience effects without recognizing causes. Fatigue feels random. Lack of clarity feels personal. Emotional instability feels like identity. But underneath all of it is a physical system responding predictably to conditions. Once that is understood, excuses lose their power because everything becomes traceable to cause and effect. The final realization is simple but unavoidable. The human body is an electrical system governed by laws that do not bend for belief or intention. Either the system is respected or it breaks down over time. Either attention is protected or it fragments. Either energy is managed or it drains away. Every outcome is already being written through ongoing internal activity. And the real challenge is not understanding this truth, but acting on it consistently enough to change what the system becomes next.